At a few minutes to 8, on an evening 12 years from tonight, the people of the United States are sitting at their radio and television sets, waiting to hear a broadcast by the head of their government, Mr. Thompson. They are waiting in silent despair to learn the answer they seek, the explanation of what has happened to the world. For years they have been witnessing a process of ever-accelerating disintegration. They have seen the rest of the earth sink into the chaos, the brutality, the terror, and starvation of collectivism. In the United States, they have watched the steps of the same process: the growing power of the government, the contracting sphere of freedom, the expanding tentacles of controls and regulations reaching out to encoil every life. But the disintegration of America is following a mysterious time schedule of its own that has no historical precedent, moving at a faster rate than anyone can explain. Certain men silently and mysteriously are vanishing: inventors, industrialists, artists, engineers, philosophers, scientists. Men who have one attribute in common: ability. The lights of America are going out. Darkness is swallowing the last of the civilized world, as if the motor of the world had stopped. The people who are awaiting the broadcast have never wondered what is the motor of the world. They have taken industrial civilization for granted as an irreducible fact of nature. And at the sight of every new disaster, at the news of every train wreck, every plane crash, every business collapsed into bankruptcy, they have heard the voices of their political and intellectual leaders declaring that selfishness is the cause of their plight, that self-sacrifice is the road to prosperity, that brotherly love and wider government power are the solution to all the problems of the world. It is an age of cynicism and of terror, of skepticism and of hysteria, of exhausted resignation and of a frantic effort to evade the knowledge of that to which men have become resigned. Now, in the midst of the last remnants of what had been America's greatness, they await the speech which, their government has promised them for weeks, will show them the path to recovery. The speech is scheduled for 8 o'clock, but at a few minutes to 8, every broadcasting station across the country suddenly goes dead. All sound has been cut off, jammed and silenced by an unknown transmitter that has taken control of the airwaves. And then the hand of the clock reaches the dot of 8. Quote, "Ladies and gentlemen," said a voice that came from the radio receiver, a man's clear, calm, implacable voice, the kind of voice that had not been heard on the airwaves for years. "Mr. Thompson will not speak to you tonight. His time is up. I have taken it over. You were to hear a report on the world crisis. That is what you are going to hear. For 12 years you have been asking, who is John Galt? This is John Galt speaking. I am the man who loves his life. I am the man who does not sacrifice his love or his values. I am the man who has deprived you of victims and thus has destroyed your world. And if you wish to know why you are perishing, you who dread knowledge, I am the man who will now tell you." Close quote. These are the words that begin the climax of the most original and challenging novel of our age, Ayn Rand's Atlas Shrugged. The radio speech that brings the events of this book to their climax is not addressed merely to the people in the story. It is addressed to you. The world in which you live has not reached the physical disintegration of that projected in Atlas Shrugged, but it has reached the cultural disintegration. It is the prevalent ideas of a culture that determine its direction and its fate, and the ideas that dominate the culture in Atlas Shrugged dominate your culture today. In the world of the present, we are told by our leading philosophers and intellectuals that factual certainty is impossible, that the contents of man's mind need bear no necessary relationship to the facts of reality, that the concept of facts of reality is an old-fashioned superstition, that reality is mere appearance, that man can know nothing, that to feel uncertain is the insignia of enlightened intellectuality. We are told that personal happiness, self-interest, and the profit motive are ignoble, that man must live for others, that the competent must exist for the sake of the incompetent, that those who suffer or are in need have first claim on the lives and energy of all the men around them, that man's mind and effort are the property of the community, of the nation, of the globe. We are told that none of this is demonstrable in reason, but that morality is outside the province and judgment of reason. We are told by theologians and philosophers alike, by Niebuhr and by Eyre, by Tillich and by Russell, by Brunner and by Carnap, by Buber and by Reichenbach, that reason cannot provide man with a code of values. Reason, we are told, deals only with means, not with ends. Ethics, we are told, is a matter of faith and feelings, and the collective faith of mankind, the consensus of its noblest feelings, has revealed the standard by which good and evil are to be judged. The good is that which is motivated by concern for the interests of others. The evil is that which is motivated by concern for the interests of self. And our political leaders are putting these principles into action by moving toward a society in which self-interest is forbidden, in which profit is impossible, in which no man is permitted to exist for his own sake, and all are sacrificed to all. That is, toward a society of collectivism, toward the totalitarian state. In all the plans to redistribute the wealth of the world, in the endless debates which one hears today about whose need is greater than whose, and who should have first right to someone else's property, in the innumerable schemes for the enslavement of man in the name of the public good, there are certain questions that no one cares to ask or think about. Where does wealth come from? Who produces it? What human faculty makes production possible? These are the questions that are raised and answered in Atlas Shrugged. The question and issue at the root of these questions, and the theme of Atlas Shrugged, is what makes human survival possible.